In this video I'm going to show you how to take a object like this tape measure and to convert it into a digital illustration. The first thing you need to do is take a picture on a blank background. Okay, once you've taken your photo you can load it into the software, and in this case I'll be using Fusion 360. This software is free to use by hobbyists and in the education sector. What I'm going to do is import the image by clicking on the insert button here and pressing canvas and navigating to where it's in my computer. So this is a tape measure. I'll double click on that, and now it's going to prompt me to select a face where it will be positioned, and these planes here correspond with this block at the top right here, and I want to work from the top, so I'm going to click on this one here. You can adjust things here, including the opacity and the overall layout, but I'm going to keep it as it is. What I will do is scale this so that it corresponds with the actual object, and to do that I click on the canvas folder or the canvases folder over here, right click on the image and press calibrate, and what this allows me to do is to click on 2 points and specify that distance. At the moment it thinks it's 1.015989 millimeters. I know that's wrong. I'm going to change that to 10 millimeters, press enter, and now the image has scaled up so it reflects the object. This is a nice feature if you're planning to produce an object which is based on drawings that you are trying to recreate as a 3D model, and I've done similar things in some of my other videos, but I can't remember which ones. I think maybe the coping saw video I might have used this technique. But in any case, if I remember, I'll add a link somewhere. Now what I can do here is create a sketch, and I do that by pressing the create sketch button up here, and again selecting the plane that I want to work on. So it's going to be the XY plane there. I can zoom in and start to draw vector lines. I particularly like using this software because I find the tools at the top up here a lot more intuitive to use than say Illustrator, and you also have other features such as the rectangular pattern tool, circular pattern and mirroring features which really expand the possibilities how you can create your vector illustrations. But for this instance I'm mainly going to use the line tool and the spline tool. If I start with the spline, I can zoom into the belt clip here and I can start to draw around this shape and just move the screen around slowly, and I don't have to be too perfect because I can come back to this later and edit the individual nodes and move them around a little bit. The trick with this is the further apart the less detail in the vector, and if you put the nodes closer together you can get slightly tighter curves. When I'm done I press enter and then that applies it. Here you can see some of the nodes that you can edit, and you also have these green lines which are the arcs. So this doesn't have to be too perfect. I think the trick is to get it looking as sort of convincing as possible. If accuracy is your goal, because you're planning to actually make this thing, you would probably want to use the 3D modeling features in the software, but that's not my aim today. I'm just trying to create the effect of the tape measure as an illustration. So there's some interesting features as I've mentioned before. Another one is the offset tool, so I can offset the lines so I don't have to repeat the spline process and give myself RSI. Once I've done that, I can locate where the vectors have overlapped and I can trim them down, and essentially I can work my way around the entire object until I've got enough detail. While I'm doing that, I can make the canvas invisible and just look at the vector lines themselves. So this is a really nice feature if you want to reverse engineer something, or in this case just simply create vector lines to use for an illustration. This process I've kind of used to create my CNC manual, and I'll show you some of those later. Anyway, that's how you import a photograph into Fusion and then create vector illustrations on top of it. If you wanted to make something in 3D, you would use a similar process with the sketches, but then start to extrude things and create components. And here you can see the various components for a canvas stretcher, which is another thing that I'm working on at the moment. I've modeled this so that I can create some instructions for work. So if I go back to my original image, this is one I did earlier, and you can see all the vectors on top of that. What I can do now is export this, and the way you do that is to click on your sketch, so right click, save DXF. This is a tape measure, but it's not a JPEG. Now what I'm going to do is open this exported vector file in Illustrator to do the final touches with respect to line width and some diagrammatical detail. Okay, so I've just opened the illustration, which you can see here. I'm going to start by changing the artboard, and I can begin by checking the vector files. The first thing I normally do is just check that the thing isn't all grouped together. If that is the case, I would normally click on the individual image on the layer section down here, and I would play around with the flatten artwork and merge select to open that up. I can now change the line weight. I could go a bit crazy and make it super thick so there's no detail. I normally stick with 0.5 or 0.75. What I normally do after I've got the image is do some diagrammatical overlays, which will then correspond to things like tables or other bodies of text. The way I normally do that is by creating a circle, which I can specify the size. So if we say 10 mil up here, and then I can swap over to the line. I can ding that off over there. I can also make a text, number or letter, and I can resize that to whatever looks visible. And then to center that, what you do is you click on the object which is inside the vector you want to align it to, press shift and click on the outer vector, and then let go of shift and click on the outer vector again, and that becomes kind of solid blue, as you can see there. And now I can use these buttons up here to adjust where it is positioned, so it can be on one side or the other, but in most cases put it in the center. And then it's just a matter of copying and pasting to populate around the object where necessary. So I've been using this technique for a while producing my own manual for my CNC machine. What I'll do is pop some up so you can see. So this is some components for my CNC machine with their parts labeled. This is meant to represent the aluminium profile, and if I go to this one, you can see all the plates for the moot one. I've had lots of practice working with this method, albeit from a 3D design. But either way, you can use Fusion 360 to either import images to then create illustrations on top of, or 3D model the thing if it's possible, and then create images that you can use to then illustrate a method or process. And because we're all on lockdown at the moment, this is quite an effective way of conveying ideas and still being able to teach despite not necessarily having access to the real things. Okay, so I hope that video wasn't too long. I'll try and edit it down to make it nice and compressed. If you don't have access to Illustrator, you can use something like Inkscape, which is free. And as I mentioned earlier, Fusion 360 has a free license for hobbyist use and for education. And it is definitely one of my favourite softwares at the moment. Anyway, I'm going to leave that video here. I hope everyone's doing well considering everything, and you'll catch me whenever.